Humans have been getting drunk for thousands of years. Long before bars, wine bottles, or even civilization existed, our ancestors were already discovering alcohol in the wild. And strangely enough, some scientists believe alcohol may have helped shape human evolution itself, because the first humans didn't invent alcohol on purpose. They found it accidentally. And once they did, human history was never the same again. Imagine walking through a hot prehistoric forest nearly 10,000 years ago. No cities, no farms, no roads. Just trees, insects, animals, and small groups of humans trying to survive. Food was never guaranteed. Every day was uncertain. And in a world like that, sweet fruit was extremely valuable. Fruit meant calories, energy, survival. But sometimes that fruit sat too long under the sun. Natural yeast in the air would begin feeding on the sugar inside it. The fruit would rot and slowly ferment. Without realizing it, nature had created alcohol. Now imagine one of our ancestors eating that strange fruit for the first time. The taste was unusual. The smell was different. But then something happened. Their body felt warm. Their fear faded slightly. They felt relaxed, lighter, different. That may have been the first human experience with alcohol, and it probably happened long before written history even began. What's even stranger, humans are not the only animals that get drunk. Modern scientists have observed elephants eating fermented fruit and stumbling around afterward. Birds have crashed into windows after consuming fermented berries. Monkeys sometimes steal alcoholic drinks from tourists. Even today, nature is still accidentally creating alcohol everywhere, which led scientists to a fascinating theory called the Drunken Monkey Hypothesis. The idea is surprisingly simple. Millions of years ago, our primate ancestors evolved to enjoy the smell of alcohol because it helped them locate ripe, calorie-rich fruit. In other words, the ancestors who could smell fermentation were better at finding food. And over time, humans may have inherited that attraction. So our relationship with alcohol might actually be connected to survival itself. But eating fermented fruit is very different from intentionally making alcohol. At some point, humans crossed that line. And the oldest known evidence comes from ancient China nearly 9,000 years ago. Archaeologists discovered traces of a fermented drink made from rice, honey, and fruit inside clay pots. This wasn't accidental anymore. Humans had learned how to create alcohol themselves, which means people were brewing drinks thousands of years before the invention of modern nations. Before paper money, before empires, before most written languages. Alcohol was already there, and once civilization began growing, drinking spread everywhere. In ancient Mesopotamia, beer became part of everyday life. Workers drank it daily. Families brewed it at home. Some people were even paid in beer instead of money. The drink was thick, cloudy, and often filled with bits of grain. It looked more like soup than modern beer. People sometimes drank it using long straws to avoid swallowing the floating pieces. And in ancient Egypt, beer was so common that pyramid workers received daily beer rations while building the massive monuments we still admire today. Imagine that. One of the greatest construction projects in human history, partly fueled by alcohol. But ancient alcohol wasn't always about getting drunk. Sometimes it was actually safer than water. In crowded ancient cities, clean drinking water could be dangerous and contaminated. Fermentation helped kill harmful bacteria, so weak beer and wine became common everyday drinks for many people. Even children occasionally consumed diluted versions because the water supply itself could not always be trusted. Alcohol slowly became tied to survival, celebration, religion, and community all at once, and every civilization developed its own drinking culture. The ancient Greeks believed wine was connected to wisdom, philosophy, and civilization, but they considered drinking pure wine barbaric, so they mixed it with water before consuming it. The Vikings believed alcohol was a gift from the gods. Some legends claimed warriors would feast and drink forever in the afterlife. Meanwhile, in South America, ancient civilizations created fermented drinks using corn. And in parts of Africa, people brewed alcohol from sorghum and millet for ceremonies and celebrations. Completely different civilizations, separated by oceans and thousands of miles, all discovered the same thing. Humans loved alcohol. But why? Why did drinking become so universal across human history? The answer may lie inside the human brain. Alcohol affects chemicals connected to stress, pleasure, and social bonding. It can reduce fear temporarily, lower anxiety, create feelings of connection, and for ancient humans living difficult and dangerous lives, those feelings probably mattered a lot. Imagine surviving freezing winters, predators, disease, war, and constant uncertainty. A drink that made people relax together would have been incredibly powerful socially. In many ways, alcohol became more than a beverage. It became part of human culture itself, but ancient drinking habits could also be extremely strange. Some early beers were almost solid. Ancient people occasionally drank through giant communal containers using long tubes. Roman parties sometimes lasted for days, and certain ancient rulers became legendary for their extreme drinking habits. One Chinese emperor supposedly created an entire lake filled with alcohol for giant parties. Whether the story is true or exaggerated, it shows how deeply alcohol had already entered human imagination. And thousands of years later, not much has changed. Humans still gather together to drink during weddings, celebrations, holidays, victories, heartbreaks, and funerals. We still use alcohol to relax, to socialize, to escape stress, to feel connected. The containers changed, the recipes changed, civilization changed, but the behavior remained surprisingly similar. which means the next time someone raises a glass at a party, they are participating in a tradition older than recorded history itself. A tradition that may have begun with a piece of forgotten fruit lying beneath a tree thousands and thousands of years ago.